Triangle to Win is on Patreon. Follow the link you see on the screen to find out how to support the show. This is Triangle to Win, a gaming podcast with a focus on all things PlayStation RPGs, a veritable match made in heaven. The aforementioned combo has given us historic games such as Final Fantasy VII and my personal favorite, Kingdom Hearts. I am your host, Karlobster, and it's time to press Triangle to Win. Hello, it is I, Karlobster, and welcome to Triangle to Win Episode 8, a bi-weekly PlayStation/RPG/anything podcast. Honestly, could be anything, depending on what we talk about, but it's mostly about gaming in general, and I am your host, Karlobster, just as I said earlier. But hello, welcome. It's been a while, in 2 weeks, as per usual, unlike last episode, which took me 3 weeks, because I got confused. I got very confused with all the dates and stuff, and I've been very busy. But I'm proud to announce that we are currently on track. Although technically, the time of recording for this has changed a bit. It's currently Monday, and I'm still trying to figure out the best times to do recordings and stuff. As you may know, I also have another full-blown job and another job as well. So I'm trying to get these episodes in between, in moments where there's nothing going on per week, which are very few and far in between. But, I try my best. But yeah, episode 8, you can support the show by joining the Patreon. It's actually very rainy right now. So I apologize if you hear some rain. Maybe when I talk, you'll probably hear like a shh. That sound going on in the background, so I apologize, but if you, hopefully it'll let up later, in a few minutes, yeah. The Philippines is currently rainy season right now. It's currently rainy season in the Philippines, so we just got off a really, really hot summer, and summers here are insane, because the heat indexes can go really, really high, up to like 4. I think this year, the highest I've seen is maybe 46. But that's what I've seen, like on the news. I'm pretty sure maybe there have been 48 days in other days that I've been, other days of the summer. But recently, I've been getting into the news. Just watching the news every day. And, 46 is the highest that I've seen so far. And it's funny because it's always usually in the north. Damn, the north part, those guys are screwed. But hey, what can you do, really? I also went to the beach last week, which is pretty fun. So apparently last week was the last week of summer. So I was fortunate that I was able to get in at least one little vacation before the end of summer. Although, honestly, I'd say that if you're able to go to the beach during rainy season and it doesn't rain, but is kind of just a little bit more overcast than usual, it's colder as compared to a full-blown summer, sun out, blue skies, no clouds kind of day, I think your experience at the beach would be better. At least for me, personally. One of my best experiences at the beach is always when you go to the beach, it's not hot. It's maybe you don't even see the sun. You only see clouds. It's a little bit gray, but it doesn't rain. So that's like one of the best times I've ever been to the beach. Just imagine, right? Just sitting down outside. You hear the waves from the water, the sea, and then you also get the wind, the nice cold wind. And then you hear the trees, the rustling on the leaves. And there's no rain and there's no sun, right? Peak. Although you have to be very lucky for that exact combination of things to happen. But yep. What else is there to talk about? Aside, I guess the beach trip was just one day. The thing about beach trips, they can overstay their welcome by a lot, especially if it's really hot and stuff. I think one day, maybe 2 days would be the best for me. One day is okay, but you barely feel the one day. You still feel tired. You feel you haven't really done a vacation after one day, but it's still helpful for me. I can't really do long vacations with the family, at least with the family, with my mom specifically, because she has dialysis every other day. She has like dialysis Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We could go to the beach on Saturday, Sundays, but those are like really, really peak season, peak week, peak season kind of deals. Actually, I feel like the best time also to go to the beach is like not peak season. Not peak season is rainy season usually, but you also don't have a lot of people around you, not a lot of things going on. The restaurants aren't packed. Oh, God. We went to a Shakey's on the way to the beach, and for some reason, everybody and their mothers also went to a Shakey's. Now, if you don't know what a Shakey's is a pizza place that's very popular here in the Philippines for families and stuff. It's very old as well. But yeah, we went to Shakey's and it was insanely packed. We went to the Shakey's specifically because the other choices weren't really good in this area that we went to. The other choices basically are just KFC, Jollibee, McDonald's, that stuff. And we wanted, more or less real food. So we went to the Shakey's instead, got a pizza, got some pasta, got some mojos. What else? What else did we get? Ooh, I think that's it. Mozzarella sticks, probably. And it was so packed that it took so long for us to get our order, and then it took so long for us to get our bill. Took way too long, and we were also seated in the very, very back, And then you could see these poor staff just not making eye contact with you because they because they know if you make eye contact with them, they know that you're gonna ask for something, and they're gonna be like, "Oh man, I need to bring this and that from the oh, I just got here to work. I don't want to do so much already, right? I just got here. I brought like 10 cups of water, and now this guy's gonna tell me to bring another 10 cups. God, 10 glasses? Damn." So, understandable, but still kind of sucks that it takes too long and there's so many people. And then when you're with a family, there's also kind of this expectation that you need to kind of manage their emotions in a way. You don't want people to get like to be hungry. You don't want them to be annoyed because everyone's hungry. So you're also kind of doing some small talk. You're trying to allay their emotions about the food taking so long. You're like, "Oh yeah, it's so busy right now, so that's why it's taking so long." But we ordered earlier than this other table, and then this other table still gets our food faster because there are less people. So that was a thing. Then the beach was really nice. It had an infinity pool. It was more or less a hotel resort, and I think I'd prefer those things rather than like a full on beach with a bahay kubos and just the really really beachy feel. I'd rather have a big ass building with with a bunch of rooms, air conditioned rooms that are cleaned, and the rooms don't feel like they're beach rooms. They feel more like just a normal like hotel room. That was what we got, which is pretty great. The infinity pool was fun too, and I didn't swim in the beach because the staff was adamant to tell us that there's a bunch of jellyfish around right now, and I really don't want to get stung by a jellyfish. That's not on my bucket list. So only could really walk on the beach side shore, but didn't really swim in it. So I just swam in the infinity pool instead, which was still cool. But yeah, so that was it for my week. Also, beginning of this week, the end of last week and the beginning of this week, my dog got sick. And so we took my dog to the vet, and They say he has a case of canine anaplasmosis, which is basically a blood-borne bacteria, a bacteria in the blood that is caused by ticks. And Onion and Julia, my dogs, I've been seeing like ticks here and there, but we give like a medication like for 3 months straight, which is called NexGard. And they say that NexGard for 3 months straight gives the dog like 1 year of immunity or 1 year of protection to ticks and stuff. So I wonder what happened. I guess the the ticks were just too overbearing that they were able to, get through the NexGard immunity. But also I'm not quite sure what happened. So Onion is currently confined at the pet vet hospital. And he's been there for around 3 days now. And I visit him every day. And I gave him some boiled chicken because that's what the vet was like. Yeah, he actually eats boiled chicken. He doesn't really feel like eating the kibble, but we tried giving him wet food. He likes the wet food, but he really likes a boiled chicken. Now, my dog, I don't really give my dog any kind of human food, right? I mostly give my dog like 90% of my dog's food is like just a dog food, and then some little treats here and there of human food. So, I guess that turned into a good thing because when my dog is sick, he doesn't want to eat at all. He's just that kind of, he's just that kind of dog. He really likes to take on the sick role. He's like, "Oh, Papa, I'm so sick." And then he doesn't eat, he doesn't drink. But then I guess because of the rarity of the times I give him human food, it's good to know that if you give him human food right now, he's like, "Oh, yes, give me that human food right now. I know I'm sick, but this is very rare for me, and I must eat it." So he's been eating the boiled chicken, so I brought him more boiled chicken to the vet, and nothing added, no salt, no sugar, no nothing. It's just boiled chicken, and hopefully he likes it. Hopefully he gets more nutrition from it. He also has like a IV going on, has a bunch of medications, maybe vitamins as well. So they say that he'll be discharged maybe tomorrow or Wednesday, depending on how much he's able to eat. Because same thing for humans as well. As long as they can drink and they can eat and they can keep up with their nutrition, you're pretty much good. As long as you take also medications and stuff, but it becomes a problem only if suddenly your patient cannot eat and cannot drink. Now that becomes a problem because aside from the medications, you need something to sustain yourself, which is the nutrition and the energy, that food and water provides. And if the patient cannot give that to themselves, then admission really is required. Like confinement really is required because you will have to give them food via other means. For patients, for example, it's through a nasogastric tube, a tube that goes through their nose straight to the stomach, and then you deliver the food from there, which is usually like blended food, or the other ways through IV, intravenous, parenteral nutrition is what we call it, where the food is, it's specially made formula where you can actually put it into a vein and have this formula be injected straight into the vein. It's for your nutrition and stuff like that. But those are for more severe cases. But as long as you can eat your food and drink your water, you're good to go. With medications, and you can go home, stuff like that. So yeah, looking forward to Onion coming home, and I'm currently making some new arrangements for him when he gets home. I plan on making him just straight up live here in the studio. Because when we moved, Onion is a house dog, but when we moved to my parents' house, my parents really just don't want pets inside the house. So we made them a little area in the garage, which is actually pretty big, where they can stay. That we also made sure that it had insulation as well, so it doesn't become hot. So that's where they stay. That's where they get everything. It's cleaned every day. So but I think for now, I kind of want Onion to go back to being an indoor dog and make him stay in my studio, at least for now. Julia is fine. My other dog is fine. My other dog is just really they thrive outside. They actually hate being indoors. I remember there was a time where we brought Julia into the house, to the room in my previous house, and then Julia just didn't know what to do. They were really stressed out. They were just, you know, they weren't relaxed at all. And so Julia would just rather go into a wider space, even if that's indoors, as long as it's super wide. Julia's gonna thrive. So that's good for them. Of course, cats, easy peasy. Just feed them, give them water, and just meow meow to them. They're pretty good. But hopefully, also I kind of want to. I don't know how to sanitize their place. Maybe there's also that element that their new place has a tick problem as well. So I'll have to ask the vet how to kind of make their place, to sanitize their place so that there's no more ticks. These pesky ticks would stop being a problem. But that's it for all the miscellaneous talk. Let's go into the news. For Triangle to Win, you can support the show on Patreon, patreon.com/triangle to win. I have 2 tiers. The first tier is more of just a support tier. It's $1. And it's just, just a little $1 per month if you want to be like, hey, here's a coffee, right? Good job. Then for the second tier, which is $5, it's more involved. You get the podcast 3 days earlier than the rest of the world. 3 days audio only, 3 days earlier, audio only, no ads for the whole thing. And if you have the Patreon app, you can even download it. You can download it and then you can listen to it anytime you want. In the car, at home, in the room, outside. What I do is I listen to my podcasts while I clean Onion and Julia's living quarters. That's what I do. Yeah. And that's how I keep up. Whenever I shower, when I clean their stuff, when I do some chores around the house, I just have a podcast on and we're good to go. But yeah, you can support Triangle to Win by doing that. Otherwise, you can also watch a show on Fridays on youtube.com/triangle to win. Please leave a comment, subscribe, notification, bell button, whatever, so you can, get updated. And also it helps the algorithm to interact with it. So thank you so much to everyone who's been watching and everyone who's been supporting so far. I still haven't done the clip stuff. These few weeks are going to be very busy. They let up and then they became very busy immediately. So we'll see. I'm still trying to make my schedule better so I can also accommodate making shorts and stuff. So cool. All right. So let's go into the news. I feel like this episode is going to be a bit shorter, maybe the shortest one so far, because there isn't a lot of interesting news. There's not really a lot of news. In general, there isn't a lot, but also not really a lot of things that are relevant to us, to PlayStation, to RPGs, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see how long it goes. But I have a few news articles here before we go into the RPG news and then the games that we're going to talk about today. I also haven't been able to play a lot of new games. So I'm going to be talking more about Clair Obscur. And also, I've recently got back into Romancing Saga 2. So that's pretty exciting. All right. But let's move on to the news. First article is from Video Games Chronicle. Xbox's Hellblade 2 is officially coming to PS5 this summer with PS5 Pro enhancements. Hellblade 2 is the latest Microsoft first-party game to come to PS5. So the game, which was released in 2024 for Xbox and PC, will be released on PlayStation 5 to celebrate its 1-year anniversary. So, yeah, I remember this game was super hyped before, a year ago, but then after it released, it was shown to have just like a 4-hour story, 4 to 5 hours of gameplay. And I think it was priced full. It was a full price game, and people were complaining that it was just very, very short. Although, even it was short, the graphics, people say, are like the best graphics they've ever seen from a console game. So, that's pretty cool. I haven't really played this yet. It was on Game Pass as well, but I wasn't really interested in it. I liked the first game, but I definitely wasn't as hot on it as a lot of people were. When Hellblade 1 released, people were just lauding it left and right, even giving it maybe Game of the Year awards here and there. But what I remember from it is it was a very interesting story with a very interesting premise. It was very psychological, right? It made great use of its audio by giving you, kind of like if I remember correctly, the main character is kind of schizophrenic, and they get a lot of auditory and visual hallucinations. And the visual hallucinations are the usual, you see it in your screen. But the audio hallucinations were done by masterfully just having so many voices, just a cacophony of voices all over Senua, the main character. And for the player that's, for example, if you're wearing headphones, then they really made use of 3D spatial audio to really just dial in this feeling that, yes, there are multiple voices in your head, the player, that are talking to you. And they're whispering in different tones, and they're telling you what to do and giving you different conflicting things, ideas and thoughts. And it gets very cool as the game goes on. And that was one of its main sells, is that just audio design that emulates the schizophrenic mind, so to speak. But then, Hellblade 1, that was Hellblade 1. But the rest of it just felt like an old PlayStation 3 game. It had the old PlayStation 3 kind of ethos to its gameplay. You're just running around corridors, basically just pressing up to go straight. And then the combat is just very, very lean. If I remember correctly, there really wasn't anything to the combat. You just kind of slashed and then dodged, and that's it. The world itself looked cool and nice, but honestly, it was just straight corridors throughout the game. But the story was really good. So I wasn't really super excited for Hellblade 2. I thought, because Hellblade 1 also already felt really nice, already felt good, and it already felt like a complete story, so to speak. So I really wasn't like, Hellblade 2, did we really need Hellblade 2? But then they released, the first footage of Hellblade 2, and it was being positioned as this hyper real project from Microsoft, right? Instead of it just being a game now, that emulates, what it'd be to be schizophrenic, to have all those auditory hallucinations. Aside from that, it's now positioning itself to be like an insanely realistic looking game with graphics that'll blow your mind. Suddenly, it's all about the graphics, right? And that's not really something that interests me, to be honest. But yeah, Hellblade 2 released last year, and people played it. And then I feel like in 1 week, people stopped talking about it. Because people were quite literally finishing it in less than a day, maybe a morning, right? And then that's it. So, however, 1 year later, this game is coming to PS5. I feel like this game is going to be great. This game is going to be not great. It's going to perform great on PS5. Because I feel like this kind of game is within the wheelhouse of a lot of PlayStation players, which is the high-quality single-player narrative game. So it's going to do well. But, will I play it? Probably not. Maybe if I have a free stream. I just have a free stream slot that I can dedicate 5 to 6 hours to play this game. Maybe I will. But Hellblade 2 is the latest amongst Microsoft's first-party games to come to PS5. And we have been talking many times already about what exactly else is coming to PS5. So Halo should be the next one, like the next from Microsoft's existing catalog. But I guess after Halo, what I really would want them to bring back is Lost Odyssey. Like, bring Lost Odyssey to PlayStation. Bring Blue Dragon to PlayStation. You know, all these Xbox 360 exclusives on the PlayStation 3. I wonder if they will bring those to PlayStation. Or if it's all just going to be new things from now on. Right? So let's say Halo does come. I guess what we're looking at is just only new Xbox games from that point on. I don't know if they're going to go ahead and go back into their catalog and bring back old Xbox 360 exclusives. But we'll see. Hopefully they do. Lost Odyssey. That's what I'm looking for. And especially now with the hype of Clair Obscur, there is a place for new types of turn-based RPGs. And I think Lost Odyssey might be a hit if they could bring it back. So yeah, Hellblade 2, PS5, soon, summer, whatever that is for American time. When is summer? September? Probably September. I don't know. Who knows? Who cares? Anyway, that's Hellblade 2. Next up in the news is Oblivion Remastered was April's best-selling US game. Forza Horizon 5 leapt from 42nd to 2nd due to PS5 release. So, in the latest data released from Circana by Matt Piscatella, they released a new chart, some new data regarding PlayStation sales. Not really PlayStation, game sales from April, right? And remember, Oblivion Remastered released in the past few weeks during April. And that's a really, really old game, right? But it is Oblivion. So it makes sense that it went straight to the top to be the best-selling game, right? Everywhere. Oblivion, just an old game remastered, though. So it goes to show that these remasters really sell, especially if it's for a game that people indeed do want, a game that's super old already that needs to be brought back. Now, I feel like, could they remaster Morrowind? I want to see that. Morrowind, that'd be cool. I really want to play Oblivion because I do remember playing Oblivion, but I only got up to really just the first area. You know, you start from a prison and then the world opens up and then you can see like the city, the first city. And that's basically it. Because I remember back when Oblivion was just released or when it was still new, the rig I had, the PC I had was just an old Sony Vaio laptop. So I couldn't really run it really well. Also, I didn't have my own money because I was a student. I was a child. So I couldn't really just buy games, especially for my PC. I'd have my parents buy games for my console. That makes sense. But for my laptop, I don't think so. But yeah. Now, the other cool thing is that Forza Horizon 5, also an old Microsoft game, old-ish, you know, just released recently on PlayStation, and it shot up from 42nd place to 2nd place. So that's big evidence of like the effect of releasing these games on a platform with a big fan base that wants these games. Right? Also interesting here is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, also a new Microsoft game from last year. I think it's from December last year or something. Released also on PlayStation last month, and it shot up from 118th place. I don't think it was last month, maybe last month. It shot up from 118 to 6th place. So that's crazy. That's a crazy big jump. And also this game is, you know, within the wheelhouse of a typical PlayStation gamer. Narrative, single-player, action game, right? Pretty cool. So, good job, and congrats to Microsoft for that. Because the business strategy makes sense. Release your games on PlayStation. Don't keep them locked to Xbox anymore. Because if you lock it to Xbox, then your fan base, your platform, um, your existing like platform users will be very limited, and that's just a reality that has happened. That not a lot of people bought the Xbox, right? And more people are on PlayStation. I think that's like double users on PlayStation or something. But yeah, cool. Nice for Xbox. Big fat check for last month for not a lot of, for very little cost. The cost of porting the game over the PS5. That's basically it. So nice extra bit of money for Microsoft, which goes to show that maybe the real strategy right now is just to release it on everything. When they release a new game, just put it on everything. That makes sense. MLB The Show, which is PlayStation's MLB game, always, these sports games always do well. And freaking, I can't believe Minecraft is still like, last month Minecraft was in 11th place and now it's in 4th place. Why is this game still selling? It's still selling. Stop. Then you got the WWE, NBA, PGA, all these sports games. Monster Hunter Wilds, of course, is there. Split Fiction, still going strong. Oh, also, I think another game also had a big boost, which is The Last of Us recently, because of its TV show. So The Last of Us Part 2 went from 23rd spot in sales to 13th. So that's a nice little boost in sales just from basically for free with just the cost of the TV show that's going on. So cool. Is there anything else interesting here? Let's see. Even Elder Scrolls Online got a boost, which I assume is because of Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion's release. People are like, yeah, I need more of that online. I need more of that Oblivion stuff. I need more of that Elder Scrolls. So let's try this online game. Pretty cool. Elden Ring still the same. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 pretty much, still here. Wow, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is still selling after a few months now. A few weeks. Yeah, pretty cool. Hogwarts Legacy is still selling. What? That's crazy. Even after all these years. Wait, did Hogwarts Legacy release elsewhere? I wonder. I haven't really kept track of that. So, that's a cool thing from Circana. Pretty cool to see all these Microsoft games getting new life on PlayStation and selling a lot. So that's good. Unfortunately for us and for me, Pentiment wasn't amongst those games that PlayStation players supported. Unfortunately. But I did really love Pentiment. So yeah, that's it for the new data from Circana. Next article. Lies of P is getting difficulty options to make the Souls-like more accessible. The game will offer 3 levels of difficulty for the base game and the expansion. Oh, I thought this was just going to be for the expansion only, but apparently it also includes the base game. That's interesting. So over here in Video Games Chronicle, Lies of P Overture will introduce difficulty options to try to increase the number of players who can enjoy the game. Difficulty options in Souls-likes are rare, with From Software's games featuring no such options. While much of the community celebrates this and the difficulty of the games is part of why they have enjoyed such popularity, some players have argued that a lack of difficulty options prohibits potential players from enjoying the genre. Now, Lies of P Overture developer NeoWiz has announced that it will introduce difficulty options in its upcoming expansions. So, the game director says, "We wanted to make sure a wider audience of players could play the game." And when asked if the decision was made on player feedback, he responded, "Absolutely, we have a lot of feedback from customers and from our developers." So, the new difficulty options will be Butterfly's Guidance and Awakened Puppet will be added in a patch released alongside Lies of P Overture. And the game's default difficulty level is now named Legendary Stalker. Huh. Interesting that the normal difficulty has the word legendary. I guess that makes sense. And the higher difficulty has awakened. But I feel like legendary has more weight to it when you're talking about difficulty. But whatever. It doesn't matter. But so yeah. Interesting that they it's interesting, but also it makes sense, and also they really should add this stuff. Now, for me specifically, I like when my games are difficult, right? Um, I like putting my games on hard mode from the get-go. And one of my big complaints with games these days, especially for the games that I love, like Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 16, these Final Fantasy, all the modern new Final Fantasy stuff, is that they do offer difficulty options, but they're offered in a way where you have to unlock the difficulty option, the harder difficulty first, by playing through the game initially. And that's one of the things that I really dislike, because I like playing games once and forgetting. Not really forgetting the game, but just play once. I don't really replay my games until like many, many years later. And so this whole idea of having to play through 50, 60 hours of gameplay first before you can unlock the hard difficulty, especially for Final Fantasy 16, it's one of the things I really wanted to try, but didn't really have time to, because I already spent 50 hours in the game. But the Final Fantasy difficulty of FF16, that's what it's called, the hard mode Final Fantasy difficulty, is a retuned FF16 with, they actually change the monsters that you can see in the wild. So, for example, if in the beginning area you'd see like goblins, in Final Fantasy difficulty, which is the harder difficulty, you'll see like a chimera or something instead of these goblins, which is pretty cool. And so they attack you in different kind of combinations, and you get to make most use of the battle system. But Final Fantasy recently has been relegating these harder difficulties to new game pluses, so to speak. So you bring in a maxed out character into the new game plus with a higher difficulty, and it's tuned towards that. And now I think that's pretty cool, right? Because you're going to start the game with pretty much your whole kit already in your character, but again, the having to play the game after 50 hours of it is a big ask, especially for me. And I would have rather you guys just had the harder difficulty already from the very start. Like from the moment you buy the game and you open it, I would like the hard difficulty to be there. And then a new game plus difficulty to be something else. Because for example, for RPG specifically, one of the things I keep complaining about is that how I'm being punished by doing everything a game has to offer. By that, I mean, for example, when I was playing Fire Emblem Three Houses, which is basically the one where this whole thought of mine came to a head, like a full head, is when I got to the end of the game. The whole game, maybe the first half of the game, was very difficult, and I liked it, right? But then after a while, the power creep happens. Especially, I do all the side quests. I do absolutely everything in my RPGs, every side quest, every stuff that I can do. And so what happens is that by the end of the game, I become very, very overpowered. And people do enjoy that. People enjoy the feeling of after having done everything, they've out-leveled the boss, right? And then you're against this god of a boss who calls him the god of the world or whatever. And then you just hit them with one attack and they're dead, right? People find that fun. But not me. And when I go into these final encounters with everything and all the ultimate weapons and all that stuff, and then I beat them super easily, it becomes very anticlimactic for me, because the story is very important to me. The emotions that the story gives me is very important. So if the emotion that I'm supposed to feel is that, oh my God, this final boss, this is it. Make it or break it. This boss is the last thing in between. You're the last thing in between the boss and the destruction of this world, for example. And then you get there, and then everybody's super emotional about it. They're like, oh my God, yes, this is it, guys. This is our last mission. It's a suicide mission. Everything hinges on this moment. right? And then you just do a little attack and he's dead. That ruins the story for me in a way. Because the story isn't just the cutscenes, it's everything. So when that happened to me for Three Houses, and at the end I was just brazing through these maps, I didn't even really think of my strategy. I was just, hitting everything easily. There were these big ass enemies and stuff, and it was just plowing through them. It kind of makes everything just be anticlimactic, right? So I wish they'd introduce harder difficulties to begin with immediately. Now, this thing here, I think the difficulty, the rallying for difficulty levels in Souls-likes is more for the ability to play the game on an easier difficulty. And for that, I get, right? Even if I'm not the target audience for that kind of feature to make a game easier, I do get and understand why people are asking for it. And honestly, I feel like if you're not from software, if you're not the big shots that do Elden Ring, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, whatever, then you can do whatever you want with your game, right? And I think by doing this, you reach an audience that the Elden Ring, the Elden Rings and the Dark Souls do not reach. And it's hard to compete with From Software in their own game. So I think by Liza P doing this, they can still maintain that kind of that pedigree of being a cool Souls-like that can basically rival, stuff like Dark Souls, or maybe even better for some people. But also kind of bring in all these other players into the flock who've always been interested in trying a Souls-like, but are intimidated or really just cannot beat a Souls-like. I mean, a Souls game, like a Dark Souls game or something. So you can get these people into the fold and they'll buy your game. More people will buy your game. And then, more people playing your game, success. Right? That's why I feel like as long as you're not a Souls game, like an actual Souls game, you got your Liza P, your Berserker of Kazan or something, I don't think it's a really noble, worthwhile hill to die on to be like, no, we want our game to be super hard, and that's just our vision of it. Because people really just don't expect that from just, for example, Stellar Blade, right? Stellar Blade comes out, people aren't really expecting it to be like super difficult. People aren't really expecting it to be difficulty is one of the pillars of this game, right? People expect that for Souls games. And so if the Souls game does that, if Dark Souls does that, people will be like, what are you doing? This goes against the entire ethos of the series. But if you're just a new developer who just made a new Souls game, I don't think you're beholden to those kind of rules, right? I get Miyazaki with his vision of having Souls be a difficult game. I get it, right? He can do whatever he wants with his game. He can execute on the vision of whatever he wants for his game. And if that means no difficulty levels and only the best of the best, or those who really want to learn the mechanics and who really enjoy difficult games will play it, and then so be it, right? They're going to be selling millions upon millions of copies. But if you're a new developer with a new game, new IP, nobody knows about it, it's going to be a Souls-like game, I think it'd benefit you more if you stop putting barriers around your game and appeal to as many people as possible to give you more chances of success. And for Liza P, I think this is a good move because Liza P is so good. The aesthetic for it is so good as well. It's very easy to digest, right? Also, this whole concept of Pinocchio puppets and stuff is easy to digest as well because it's one of the iconic kind of stories from our childhoods, Pinocchio and stuff like that. And a lot of people are immediately going to be interested in this because the main character is hot. He looks like Timothée Chalamet. And if they go into this game and you're like, oh, there's an easy difficulty, so you mean I can experience the aesthetic of this game, the vibe of this game, and it being an easier experience than a normal Souls game? Heck yeah, you're going to get more people in it. For Stellar Blade, people are going to be like, oh man, this woman is hot. The aesthetic is so good, it's so sexy, but the game is hard. I'm not gonna buy it. But if they add more difficulty levels, make it easier for some, harder for some as well, you're gonna reach more people, and then more people are gonna buy your product, more people are gonna recognize it, and then you can farm them for the next game, right? You already have that, fan base to rely on for your next game and stuff like that. So I think this is a good move for Liza P. Honestly, also I'm super excited for Overture. Heck yeah. So yeah, that's basically why I included this article here, just for the difficulty discussion. I would be interested to try. I don't know if I'll play this game in Awakened Puppet mode. I'll probably play this game Legendary Stalker, because while I do like my games difficult, Souls games tend to be very frustrating also. So not really. I don't really want to. I will try Awakened Puppet for sure. Okay. But anyway, next article. Now this next one, very interesting. Not super interesting. It's just that when I saw this, I'm like, what's going on? But from Video Games Chronicle, Apple to launch dedicated video game app around Switch 2 launch. The new app will replace Game Center. Now, Apple has this Game Center app thing, which is basically just a little centralized hub for all of your games and stuff. And looks like now they're kind of changing it up. They're changing it up a bit, maybe to appeal to more people and to take their gaming division a bit more seriously. So they're going to release this app called... Wait, what is it called? I'm pretty sure I saw it. No, I didn't see it apparently. So yeah, according to Bloomberg, the app will feature a centralized achievement system, leaderboards, and other communication tools. So it's not just a little hub for your games now. It's basically gonna be, kind of like the cross media bar, the whole OS for PlayStation or Xbox and stuff like that, or Switch, right? It's gonna have achievements and all of these things that make gaming consoles pretty cool. So they're gonna release. It's gonna be announced on June 9, 4 days after the launch of Nintendo Switch 2. I don't know why they need to mention Nintendo Switch 2, but sure. But also, aside from this, Apple announced that they also made another. They also did another thing, which is they did a first video game acquisition. They acquired a studio, and it's gonna be their first studio acquisition for gaming, right? So this seems to me that Apple possibly could be revving up a gaming centered thing with its new app. I don't know if they're going to be buying up more studios to make games for them in a first party capacity, which is the way the other manufacturers have been doing it, like PlayStation. PlayStation has a suite of studios that makes games for them that are exclusive to the PlayStation. Same with Xbox, although now they're going multi-platform. Of course, same with Switch. Nintendo has a bunch of developers that make games exclusively for Nintendo systems. For example, Monolith stuff for Xenoblade Chronicles and stuff, right? So it looks like Apple has its first acquisition, which is Squeaky Sasquatch or something. I don't know. Seems like it's more of a small, kid-friendly game. It's called Sneaky Sasquatch. Yes. They acquired the developers for this. So now that they're basically... I think that means they're first-party developers for Apple. Not quite sure. Meaning they're going to be making games for Apple now, for their iPhones, iPads, or whatever. Now, I think this would be interesting. However, I don't think Apple will get by if they really want to be serious in the gaming space. I don't think they'll get by just buying like small studios like that. Or just, getting a Sneaky Sasquatch, on their app, on their phones. They need a real game. I'm not saying Sneaky Sasquatch is not a real game, but they need a game, a gamer's game. I think they tried before. I remember they even had an Epic Games, an Unreal Engine Epic Games game on their platform before, and they kind of marketed it as a real gamers game, so to speak. But then you played it, it's just a mobile game, just like every other mobile game. So interesting. We'll see what Apple has in store, but I do thank Apple from many years ago for supporting the developers of, what was that game? The new company of Hironobu Sakaguchi. What was their game again? Fantasian. The developers of Fantasian, for letting for funding their game and publishing their game. Although it was stuck on Apple Arcade for a few years, if I remember correctly, and now these games are now this game actually came out on PlayStation like last year. So if it weren't for Apple, they wouldn't have been able to make that game, I think. And we wouldn't have had Fantasian because of Apple. So Apple, please do more of that. Fund more of that stuff. And maybe, like with Fantasian before, I did subscribe to Apple Arcade just to play it. And if you do more of that stuff, then sure. I have an iPad. I have an iPhone. I'll get into some games if they're good. But yeah, Apple possibly getting into the gaming space. Next news. We're back to PlayStation again. A Death Stranding anime is in the works, Hideo Kojima confirms. So this is aside from the live action adaptation that A24 is going to do. Also, by the way, A24 is also confirmed to be doing the Elden Ring adaptation. So A24 is going ham on these video game adaptations. So we'll see. Hopefully the adaptations they make are just different. They're different from like the Assassin's Creed one we got before, the Dragon Ball one. Just be different. Just be better, So in an interview with Vogue Japan, Kojima discusses vision for the Death Stranding series and how he feels the boundaries between movies and games in general will disappear in the future. And that's what he's trying to do with Physint. I think Physint has been described to be a multimedia project rather than just a game project. So that's really what Kojima wants. And it's funny the hoops Kojima is going through to make a movie, right? For everyone else, the way they make a movie is make a movie. For Hideo Kojima, it's make a successful video games career, become basically a superstar in the industry, and then make a movie out of the game he makes. So cool. So he says here he's currently working with A24 on a live action film adaptation of Death Stranding. And next up, he confirmed that he is also... Where was it? Where was it? Where did it say it? He also said that, an anime is being made. I don't think he said who is making the anime. That'll be interesting to see. But I think Death Stranding, I think any game would have a good anime adaptation. Now, one thing I'm looking at here is if Death Stranding is going to be made into an anime, I'm trying to think of what kind of art style it's going to have. If they could get like the same art style as, for example, like a Ghost in the Shell, that'd be friggin' sick. That'd be sick. But yeah. So Death Stranding is really being turned into this multimedia thing. Now a movie, next part an anime. And he says here that when it comes to adapting games into visual media, there are works like The Last of Us, which stays true to the original storyline, and films like the Super Mario Brothers movie, which are more of a service to fans of the game. While these works have their own merits as a film enthusiast, I want to pursue the expressive potential of cinema. I aim to create a Death Stranding that can only be realized through film. One that could win awards at festivals like the Cannes Film Festival or the Venice Film Festival. Then he says here at the end, in fact, we are also currently working on an anime adaptation, which is going to win in the Crunchyroll Anime Awards. Something like that. To strengthen our IP, we're doing a sequel, and this is a game. He told the publication September 24. And it will continue to add more to various platforms. What comes next are different forms of media, movies, anime, TV, dramas, anything. TikToks. Maybe. So yeah, Kojima making the movie of his dreams by first making the game. Now, will his movie win Cannes Film Festival or Venice Film Festival? We'll see. We'll see. But it's good to know that I feel like Kojima, of all people, knows what it means to make a film. Right? This guy is more about films first before games, honestly. And if he understands that it's not enough to just put this video game story and put it into a film, then that's already a better start than a lot of adaptations that have been made. Make something that can only be done in film. The same way that Stranding is a concept that the way it was executed is only possible through a video game, right? Make a Death Stranding for film and a Death Stranding for anime, a Death Stranding for games, right? So, cool. It'd be interesting how this works. I'm actually thinking of this. I remember there was a movie. It was called. The title of the movie is just a year, like a year number, 1972 or something. Maybe 1872, maybe 1672. I don't know. And the whole premise of it was just a one continuous shot type of movie. I wonder if that could work for this as well. Like, imagine just a one continuous shot movie of Sam Porter Bridges delivering something from point A to point B. Right? That'd be interesting to see everything that goes on in a delivery. That'd be cool. Maybe not even Sam Porter Bridges, maybe someone else. You know? Also, regarding this news, Kojima has been seen talking to Robert Pattinson. And in an interview, he said something like, yeah, Robert Pattinson, he's a nice guy. And he said, like, we've been talking about things, but I can't share anything about them yet. Robert Pattinson is the new Sam Porter Bridges for his movie. Bet on that. Bet on it. Bet. Okay. All right. So, another cool thing from PlayStation. We got two more PlayStation news here. PlayStation-related news. This one is a funny one. A Concord developer's commemorative release plaque is being auctioned at a Goodwill store. Bidding on the memento has currently reached thousands of dollars. This is what I was talking about. This is what I was talking about before, right? Concord is a big anomaly in the gaming space. Concord, $100 million project from basically the biggest console manufacturer in the world. First party studio of that biggest console manufacturer in the world. $100 million budget, you know? Released into the wild. Everything. The works. Collector's edition, physical edition, digital. And was taken away from us after 2 weeks. Right? It's a big anomaly. And it only had 2 weeks to be on sale. 2 weeks for people to buy it in whatever store that had it. And in 2 weeks, it was taken away. You can't buy it anymore. You can't even see it anymore. It's been taken away from the PlayStation Store as well. You can't even download it anymore. You can't play it. It's been deleted off consoles. I remember I told people this before, and I told them I can see a future where if you had a Concord physical edition disc, many, many years into the future, that's going to be expensive in a way. You know, not super expensive, but it's going to be a rarity. It's going to be the type of thing that video game libraries and museums would want to have. Because then a lot of people were like, nah, whatever, it sucks. This game sucks. No one will like it. And to that, I say, whatever, I'm correct. I feel like I'll be correct in the end. I'll have the last laugh. Because the value of a thing, especially for things like this, does not come from whether the game is good or not. In this case, the value of this comes in its very unique, like, circumstances, like the very rarity of it will make this very valuable, right? Imagine you're one of the few thousands only, one of the few thousands who bought the game physically, right? Damn, I wish I bought a physical copy of Concord so I can sell it in the future. When I don't know who has a video game museum. I'm sure there's a video game museum somewhere 100 years into the future, right? They'll be like, damn, we need one more game to complete PS5's collection, our PS5 collection. That's Concord. There are only thousands of it in the wild. I'm pretty sure a bunch of them also were like thrown into the garbage. We need a new one, like a new mint packaged one, right? I wish I had one. So the news here, a Concord developer's commemorative release plaque is being auctioned at a Goodwill store. Bidding on the memento has currently reached thousands of dollars. So the plaque, which will have been given to members of the game's development team to mark its full release, contains the game artwork, a game disc, and the name of the developer. The plaque being auctioned contains a name Chelsea Grace on it and says, Founding Free Gunner North Star Crew Worldwide Concord Launch August 23, 2024. According to Concord's credits, Chelsea Grace was a member of the art department at Concord developer Firewalk Studios, where she was an outsourcing and co-development lead. At the time of writing, the plaque has received 34 bids and currently sits at a price of $2,526. Damn. Imagine this in a few more years. Right? I wish I had it. So, Concord, you were a thing. A lot of people will not even know about you, but I remember everything about you. I played you. I played Concord. I played the beta. Crap, do I have the stream saved? Maybe I can sell the VOD one day. But yeah, if you have a copy of Concord, keep it. I feel like it'll be valuable in the future. Who knows? Maybe not. Whatever. So, that's it for Concord. My God. And also with the new news about Fair Games and Jade Raymond. Ooh, boy. Things are turning out bad for PlayStation Live Service. However, Helldivers 2 is actually performing extremely well again because they have a new update, right? And that's a live service machine. That's how the live service machine works. You don't need to keep making a new game for people to buy into it. All you need to do is keep supporting it with new content, and then you'll always get like peaks and troughs for a live service game. It's gonna keep making you money for as long as you can make cool stuff. You know, you're making cool stuff for it, but it's not like a full game's worth of stuff for it as well. So that's pretty cool. Congrats to Helldivers 2 for being the only live service initiative of PlayStation that's doing well. Good job. And lastly, for the PlayStation games, just a little game I want to talk about. The Order 1886 could have been a big trilogy of PlayStation games. The Order 1891 and the Order 1899 were planned. So, PS4 game, this is from Push Square. PS4 game, The Order 1886 was originally planned as the first entry in a trilogy containing the Order 1891 and the Order 1899. Wait, what was the game again? 1886. So, sequel will be 1891, and then the next one will 18. Oh, cool. So, in an interview with YouTuber Julian Chiez, former creative director of the now closed studio Ruirasuria, shared the team's original plans. After the first game, he said a 10-page pitch for the sequel was written that touched on bigger combat encounters and the inclusion of multiplayer. This follow-up apparently made it to the very early stage of development, but was canceled. As for the third title, Ruirasuria explained he had drafted plans for where the franchise would go and even went as far as to write stories where the IP is based in the 20th century. Damn! Rated Dawn never got the chance to turn the Order 1886 into a full series because it had poor launch reviews, killed the chances of a big follow-up being made. And so we all know, well, if you didn't know, the Order 1886 was a first-party game made by was a game from PlayStation Studios made by a first-party studio, Ready at Dawn, and it was a third-person over-the-shoulder shooter that was based in 1886. It had a very Victorian kind of skew to it. It also had, these werewolves and stuff like that. It was really cool. And it also hinged upon this idea where they use like Nikola Tesla made weapons. So the aesthetic it's so good. It had the kind of same feel and aesthetic of like Eliza P. or a Bloodborne. It had that kind of aesthetic. And I remember the game was lauded as well before for its graphics. Again, for its graphics. Because the game was a showpiece for PS4. It had features in the game where when you pick up a new weapon, you could look at the weapon in all its angles, and you could even see the hand like twisting and turning while you look at the weapon, and the weapon's textures and details are very, very detailed. It was that kind of game. It was meant to be a showpiece for PlayStation 4. But unfortunately, the gameplay suffered. The gameplay kind of suffered because of it. And the story also wasn't super... The story was very intriguing, but it didn't really reach the highs that it should have, right? And unfortunately, it had a lot of bad reviews because I feel like people are super critical when a PlayStation first-party game comes out. People are like, oh yeah, there's a lot of hate bandwagons that goes on as well. And also there was a bunch of bad reviews and stuff like that. Honestly, I enjoyed my time with the Order 1886. It was a very short, like 10, 12-hour game, but it was quality. It looked really good. It played fine. The aesthetic was like 10 out of 10, amazing. But unfortunately, it wasn't able to penetrate like the mainstream, so to speak. It didn't become a freaking big franchise like say God of War or something. So it's cool to know that it was supposedly supposed to be a trilogy. Because I remember from the end of the first game, ended on sort of it ended on a scene that kind of promised a sequel, right? And I was super excited for the next game because the prevailing thought I had after finishing the first game was that, damn, the second game of this is gonna go hard. The second game is where this game is gonna shine a lot, because they already have the engine ready, they have the concepts ready, they have the assets ready as well, and now they can finally actually focus on the gameplay of it, on refining it, and making it bigger and better and more expansive, probably. But unfortunately, they weren't able to do that. The market didn't care. The market dictated. It was like, whatever. We don't care. And so Ready at Dawn, I think, was closed or let go, if I remember correctly. I don't remember. And that was the last we've seen of them, at least under PlayStation. But I kind of want to go back and play this game. I want to revisit it and see. I feel like this is a game that if gamers of today would play it today, they'll be like, damn, we could have had something super cool. It's always like that for some reason. It's always when we've gone past a game being current that a lot of people are like, bro, this game is actually really good. Because there's no more hate. There's no more people whispering in your ear that this game is bad because they've moved on to something else. And then you just play it like by yourself, honestly, without any prejudice about it. I feel like this is one of those games. Well, if you played it right now without knowing anything about it, you'll be like, damn, this game is sick. It's really good. So I want to play it again. We'll see. I still have my copy here somewhere. I'm actually looking at my collection right now of games, but I don't see it. I wonder where it is. I could just buy a used copy if I can't find it. Anyway, I really want to play it again. Same with The Last Guardian. I want to play that too. So, yep. The Order 1886. If you're looking for, a small third-person shooter from the PS4 era with a amazing aesthetic and cool weapons from PlayStation, definitely get this one. Yep. So that's it for the general news. Let's go move on to the RPG news. Just a few. Okay, for the RPG news, let's see. Let's start with this one. It's about the same game, but the Clair Obscur glazing has been on a continuous rise recently. It's been many weeks since the game has released. Wait, many weeks? Maybe 3 weeks. And people are still praising it. People are still playing it. It's I even saw on Twitch it still had like thousands of people playing it and watching it. So that's pretty cool about it. But for Clair Obscur Expedition 33, Japanese publication Famitsu gives French JRPG. I like how it says JRPG, even if it's French. Clair Obscur high praise in review. So the game, which is developed by French studio Sandfall Interactive, is described by many as a JRPG despite having not been developed in Japan. While the game has received widespread critical acclaim among Western media, then some have been curious to see how it would be received in Japan given its designation. I do know that this game isn't selling in Japan. Funny enough. I mean, it's clear. It's easy to understand why it's not selling in Japan. Just from aesthetic alone. I don't think this aesthetic appeals to a Japanese audience. Even if the game itself, even if the bones itself will appeal to a Japanese audience, but the aesthetic, the story, the characters, I don't think they appeal to a Japanese audience at all. But it does appeal to fans, to Western audiences and Western fans of Japanese RPGs. That's for sure. But to actual Japanese people, nope. I don't think so. But as reported, Famitsu has scored the game 36 over 40. So they have this scoring system where I think they have 4 people. No, I actually don't remember what the Famitsu scoring system is. But the scores usually go up to 40. Okay. So the game has scored 36 over 40. The review praises the game's music presentation, plot pacing, and difficulty adjustments, and says the map design is miraculous because players don't get lost, even though it feels like they might. It was also recommended to fans of Final Fantasy VI or 16. So the game got a 36 over 40. But to give you an idea of what games have reached 40 from Famitsu, that's stuff like Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Bayonetta, Skyward Sword, Grand Theft Auto 5, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, a bunch of Zelda games. But only 30 games have reached 40. And there was a Final Fantasy. Perfect 40. Famitsu. There was a Final Fantasy that did this. Wait. Final Fantasy 12 and 13-2 got perfect scores in Famitsu, which is great because 12 was amazing. 13-2 was also amazing. But it's also interesting how these two games, especially in the Western world, aren't super well liked at least from what I remember, right? 12 is not talked about when it comes to in the Western audience of like the greatest Final Fantasies. Usually it's 6, 7, 8, 9, right? But 12, honestly, is just up there for me. 9 is still my complete favorite, but 12 could be like, if 9 is my complete favorite, second is 14, 12 is like third. You know, I just really like it. So it's interesting to see how my tastes kind of are reflected in Famitsu, except for the fact that F9. What did Famitsu get to F9? F9 Famitsu score. 38. Oh, here we go. Famitsu. Let's see. For Final Fantasy specifically, what are the scores that they gave away? So Final Fantasy got a 34. Final Fantasy 2 got a 35. Final Fantasy 3 got a 36. 4 got a 36. 5 got a 34. 6 got a, oh, interesting. 6 got a 37. 7 got a 38. Even Final Fantasy 7, you know? The most important Final Fantasy ever got a 37. FF7 Remake got a 39. Nice. 8 got a 37. 9 got a 38. 10 got a 39. 10-2 got a 34. 11 got a 38. 12 got a 40. 13 got a 39. Wow. It's interesting. 13-2 got a 40, right? 14 got a 39. This is A Realm Reborn. 15 got a 38. Type 0 got a 39. Is there 16? Oh, have they not reviewed 16? FF16 Famitsu. 16 got a 39 as well. So, yeah, that's interesting. Just a little interesting thing for Famitsu. How does Famitsu score? Famitsu scoring system. Actually, let me check real quick. Yeah. So I was right the first time. I just wasn't super confident in my answer. But it's 4 critics. Each assign the game a score from 0 to 10, with 10 being the high score. So that's how they do it. That's why it's 40. And it's always 40, right? So, yeah, Clair Obscur got a 36. Very nice. Very nice for Clair Obscur. But even nicer for Clair Obscur, the developers, is Clair Obscur Expedition 33 hits 3.3 million sales after 33 days. So it's been a month. 33 days, 3.3 million copies. Developer said, seriously, as of today, we couldn't make that up. Another entry on the long list of surreal moments that your support has made real. So this is 3.3 million sales without including Game Pass. So the players count is higher, but the premium sales itself is 3.3 million. So that's really, really nice for this developer, and I hope they use the funds from this to make the next game just that much better. Please don't make it open world, I swear to God. I swear to God, please. Just don't. Keep it like this, right? Maybe open it up a little bit, but just keep it roughly like this. Just get a good story in there. Put more money into the story. Maybe the graphics, maybe the animations, maybe the gameplay, of course. Make it better. But don't make it open world. Don't make it a checkbox adventure. Don't. Just please don't. Okay? I beg. 3.3 million for the first game from an indie developer. Wait, it's not an indie game, I think. I think it was published by Kepler or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, first game, small team, 3.3 million sales. That's a lot. How much is that? Let's see. Calculator. 3.3 million, 3.3 million. Wait. Excuse me. That's times 50. That's like $165 million. Clair Obscur budget. How much did it take? Okay, there's no figure. People are saying at least $20 million. Damn. Around $30 million? Crazy. $30 million to make the game. Let's just say $30 million also for the marketing. That's $60 million. They already made $165 million plus the Game Pass deal that they had. Damn, these guys. We need to look out for this guy's next game. The next game is going to be big. Okay. So that was Clair Obscur. Stuff about Clair Obscur. Pretty cool. And lastly, for the RPG news, kind of RPG, kind of. Stellar Blade. PC developer hopes to share good news about region lock soon. Now, let's go back down memory lane. When Sony released Helldivers 2 on Steam, it was a big success. People from all over the world were playing it, right? And then a week later, 2 weeks later, who knows, just a few weeks later, Sony was like, yeah, you now need a PlayStation account to play this game. People on Steam, you need a PlayStation account. Okay. Now, the thing about PlayStation accounts, I think we talked about this before, I'm not sure, is that PlayStation actually, officially, isn't available in every country in the world, right? And you're probably going to think like, yeah, it's not available in like, what, 5 countries, 4 countries? No, it's not available in 129 countries. And this also includes stuff like Philippines, right? Ever since the PlayStation Network was introduced during the PlayStation 3, I have never made a Philippines PlayStation account because it's not available in the Philippines. And you know what this means? If it's not available in the Philippines, the PlayStation itself is available in the Philippines, but there's no PlayStation Network support for it. And without PlayStation account network support for the Philippines, that means you can't use Philippines credit cards. You know, you can't use Philippines credit cards on it. And it becomes a very annoying situation where you need to, for me specifically, I don't have a US credit card. I don't have a credit card from any of these other supported countries. So I always need to buy, for example, I have a US account. I have an account in the US. I have an account in Japan. I have an account in Singapore, in Hong Kong, Russia, I think. And in order to buy games from these stores, I need to buy gift cards with that currency. So, for example, Singapore, I need to buy PlayStation cards in the Singaporean dollar to be able to buy it from that store. If I want to buy from the US store, I need to buy a gift card with the US currency, dollars. So, it's an awful situation. Plus the fact that you can't use other services in a non-supported country. For example, Philippines, I can't really use PlayStation Now unless I use like a VPN or something, right? Or maybe I can use it with a US account, but you're connected to US servers and it'd be better if you connected to like Southeast Asia servers, whatever, right? So that's annoying. And for Steam, unfortunately, it's not like you can make different accounts. You can, I guess, but I think it detects your IP, maybe. And so 129 countries are locked out of buying and playing Helldivers 2 on Steam. And PlayStation has doubled down on this. They were like, whatever, right? You can't play this game unless you have a PlayStation account, right? So, however, it looks like things are changing for Stellar Blade. Well, the Stellar Blade developer Shift Up on Twitter has said it looks forward to sharing some good news with you soon in reply to a comment saying the game is banned in more than 100 countries due to the PSN system. Can you talk to PlayStation to make the game available in the countries banned from buying it? PlayStation announced months ago that its games do not require a PSN account, so the ban on its games will. So, oh, right. So, I guess that's what happened. Now I remember correctly. PlayStation removed the PSN account requirement to play the game, but if you still are not part of these PlayStation supported countries, you still can't play the game or buy it, actually. And so Stellar Blade Dev said, we look forward to sharing some good news with you soon. Please stay tuned a little longer. So this means there could be a new thing, a new development for PlayStation accounts and all of these PlayStation Network not being available in these 100 plus countries for the release of Stellar Blade. Now, I wonder if this is as big as actually supporting a lot of these other countries, right? Will I finally be able to make a Philippines PlayStation account? Or is it not going to be as good as that? We'll see. We'll see. Hopefully it means, yeah, the PlayStation thing. So I can finally use my freaking Philippines credit card to buy stuff. It's been very annoying to be buying gift cards and putting in the code, and you can't even like load normal. I mean, you load like minute amounts. You have to either buy like the $50 one, the $10 one. So when I buy a game, I usually like mix and match. I'm gonna buy this $50 one, then plus a $20 one, so I can get $70, right? Or let's say I want to buy a game that's like $5 only. I can't just buy a $5 gift card. I need to buy the $10 one, right? And then have $5 left over in my. It's weird. It's annoying. So hopefully this turns out to be better than expected, but I feel like it's not. It's just gonna be, yeah, you can play the game without a PSN account, but we're still not gonna be supporting these 129 countries, whatever. Okay, and that's it for the RPG news, right? At least the RPG news. There's a lot of RPG news, but not anything super interesting so far. So yeah. Now let's move on to the games that I want to talk about. So let's just say these are progress reports, because I talked about these games before. So this is just a little update on what's been going on for both of these. Okay. So first game I'm going to talk about is Clair Obscur Expedition 33. I am probably currently 90% of the way through, 80 to 90% of the way through. And I've seen most of the story by now. And this game is really good. I mean, I talked about it before in the previous episode, how good this game is. And my feelings are pretty much the same, where the combat is still really good. However, I do see some things that make the combat feel limited in a way. How do I explain this? Because of the whole parry mechanic, parry dodging and stuff like that, I realized that the enemy patterns are very few. Right? Because, for example, there are multiple enemies in this game where they only have 2 patterns of attack. So as long as you see them all the time, you'll be able to get their parry timings and dodge timings as well. And it makes sense for these characters, these enemies, especially the trash mobs, to just have 2 patterns, maybe just 1, maybe up to 3. Because you're going to be fighting these guys over and over, and you don't want them to constantly be throwing something new at you, which could get very frustrating very quick if you're just moving through an area and you always get these enemies and you keep fighting them, and every battle is like a battle for survival because you've never seen them use a specific attack ever before. So it makes sense that that's what happens. However, the boss fights are really good. The boss fights so far have been very, very unique every time. They're not just bosses with a big HP pool and then just a few attacks for you to dodge and to parry and then just try and do that over and over until it's done. It's really good that every big boss so far in this game feels very different. For example, there's a boss here that, aside from the parry mechanics and the dodge mechanics, I found out that there are more mechanics. So there's something called a gradient counter. A gradient counter is when an enemy does a super strong attack, stronger than any other attack that they have. And basically the screen goes black and white. And when the screen goes black and white, that's the telegraph that they're going to do a gradient attack. So you need to do a gradient counter. And the thing about the gradient counter is that the attack that you use to counter the enemy is also really strong as well. So that's one cool thing about the gradient counter. But aside from the gradient counter, there is also a jump mechanic. So when an enemy does a sweeping or whatever attack that they have that requires the characters to jump, you'll need to press the jump button, and then you press another button so that you can like counterattack them in the air, like at the peak of your jump or something. So this is telegraphed by a nice little icon on the enemy, so you know when you need to block or dodge versus when you need to jump. But that really just adds a lot more dynamics to the battles, because it's not just parry and dodging. Now you also need to think about the gradient counters and now the jumping as well. So I was pleasantly surprised by that, because I really thought it's just about the parrying and the dodging, but no, it's there's more, which adds more depth to the encounters. Now for the bosses are really cool. And they all have like different varying mechanics. It's not just dodging and attacking, and dodging, parrying, attacking. You know, it's not just that. For example, there's this boss which has like an insane maybe 10 plus string of attacks that you can parry or dodge. And in between, you need to jump. So it can happen where you parry the first 3 attacks, and the fourth attack is you need to jump. And then he goes back to the normal attacks and you need to parry, and then the last one is a jump. And then it can also be more complicated, where in the last attack can be a gradient counter, which is pretty cool. And then I also noticed this, but there are some enemies where, because there's this thing when enemies attack where it shows some text on top of the screen. For example, let's say a wolf approaches you and does an attack. The text can sometimes say, the wolf is doing a strong attack, right? And this kind of clues you in as to what attack it's going to do and what timing you need to reach to dodge it or to parry it. Then on another attack, it'll see the wolf does a series of small attacks, right? So in a way, that also kind of telegraphs what kind of string of attacks they're going to do before they even do the animation, right? But the game also plays with this a little bit, where sometimes it goes like the wolf is doing an attack, right? And they do attack pattern A. And then the game is like the wolf is doing an attack, and there's no change in the statement. So you're expecting attack pattern A, but then the wolf does attack pattern B, even if the telegraph text says the same thing. And when that happens, the thing that differs is usually the wind-up animation. So let's say the wolf delivers an attack, and the wind-up animation is the wolf from the ground, kind of attacking from the ground up, right? Then attack pattern B could start with the wolf delivers an attack, and the wolf instead jumps in the beginning of its animation. And that clues you into what kind of attack it's going to do. So the game plays with its elements to surprise you as well, right? And to the elements of the battle system that just doesn't rely on sound cues. It doesn't just rely on visual cues. It also relies on text cues. And then it has the gall to mix them all up to confuse you sometimes. And that's very engaging, actually, to the game in these boss fights. Not even just the boss fights, even the trash mobs can be very engaging in this regard, right? Now, the boss fight specifically, one of the very nitpicky things, not nitpicky, one of the very complaints I have with these big bosses, you know, sometimes games come out with super bosses and they're like gigantic bosses, right? But for many games, doesn't it just have to be turn-based games? Does it also have to be action games only? For example, there's a gigantic enemy and you're in an action game. What usually happens is that you're delegated to attacking this giant enemy's foot over and over, because that's the only thing that you can reach as a small character versus a gargantuan enemy. You just keep hitting the foot, the thigh, the knee over and over. And then what usually happens is they do an attack that brings their face and their fist down to the ground. And for some reason, they get stuck And then that's your cue to attack the face or the arms, right? That's how it usually goes. And I hate that stuff. I liked it in the beginning, but you see it in many, many games now. It becomes like annoying. Like, God, think of something new, right? Or you're playing like Final Fantasy 14, you're in a raid, and the raid features a gargantuan enemy as well. However, the game puts you on a platform where you're at chest level. And so what happens is that the enemy keeps attacking with their arms. They slam the ground that you're on, and then they leave their arms on the ground so for you to attack. You scratch their hand, and that's how you beat them. Or if you stun them enough, their head falls to the ground, and then that's how you attack the head, right? And honestly, that's pretty annoying. For this one, though, it's very interesting. So there is a big enemy that you fight. I'm not going to give too much spoilers. It's just like the enemy that you're fighting. A very big enemy, really big. So big that in order to show the enemy, the camera needs to zoom out really, really far out just to see the whole span of this enemy. And then you as a character are just like an ant on the screen, right? It's that big. Now, the thing about this enemy is that it deals with masks and stuff, right? And so I was thinking, oh crap, so we're gonna be slashing its foot now, right? But no, the game did a clever little thing because its whole thing is masks, right? Instead, there's a representation of this boss in front of you, which is a mirror. Just a big mirror. This mirror kind of reflects the masks that it uses. So instead of attacking the boss's feet or the hands, you're attacking this mirror, right? In some sort of way, this mirror is its weak point. This mirror has its essence. And the big boss that you see in the background is just the body that this mirror is sort of controlling. So that's a clever way to do these kinds of bosses. And there's another one where there's like a statue of it in front of you instead. And that's what you hit. This little statue thing, which is a representation of the big gigantic boss that you see behind the statue. And just seeing that makes me feel that, damn, these devs really just thought of everything. Maybe they had the same complaints as me for their experience with JRPGs and RPGs in general and action games. That's a little complaint as well. And so they kind of solved it in a way. So that was a really cool thing. And the bosses in this game are just so good. And the bosses have multiple phases. It's like, sometimes it's like a Dark Souls boss where you're fighting it. It's going to be a really hard fought battle. And then you thought it's over, right? You whittled the enemy down to 5% of its HP. And then suddenly a cutscene happens, and then the boss transforms, and then you're in phase 2 with full HP again, and a harder boss. And that happened a few times now, and it's really, really cool and engaging. I love it so much. And that's how, I mean, multi-phase battles aren't really new, but the way it's done here really just reminds me of how it's done like a Dark Souls or something like that. So that's cool. What else? What other new things can I talk about it? The story is still really sick. The story is still really sick, and it's so engaging. Oh, the game also does this thing where, so you play the game in 16:9, right? And then when cutscenes happen, they introduce black boxes on the top and the bottom, and give the picture a more widescreen feel, like a more cinematic feel, right? But one thing I've never seen a game done before is playing with the aspect ratio for storytelling. So, for normal cutscenes, they do the really wide kind of aspect ratio, but then sometimes, based on events that are happening in the game, they switch to a 4:3 aspect ratio. And when they switch to a 4:3 aspect ratio, of course, the framing of the scenes differ, and they give you a much different feel from the 16:9 aspect ratio. And also, there is a storytelling reason for the aspect ratio to be squished into a 4:3, right? It's squished into 4x3, but it's also taller, right? In a way. So that's really cool. So even that they think about, that clues me in that these devs have a nice cinematic sense. And even with its scenes, like a lesser game would have just shown a certain scene, with a typical timing, right? From start, this happens, like event A happens, and then event B, then event C, then event D, right? However, this game has such good editing that for scenes that it will benefit in, it could show you multiple timelines, and not timelines, multiple like moments of this whole scene. For example, the whole scene is scene X, right? Scene X is made up of scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, scene 4, right? And this game has the developers, at least the editor, is a really good editor in that in order to serve the story, it has no qualms with putting scene 2 first, then go back to scene 1, then scene 3, then maybe go back to scene 1, scene 4, go back to scene 2, go to scene 3, go to scene 1, and kind of stitch that together to make a much more engaging storytelling format as compared to just showing all events in a linear fashion. There was a specific scene in this game where it was done like this, and it was so much more impactful than if it were just presented in a normal like linear like fashion. So it's really good. It has a bunch of flares like that. Also, this game has an open world, but not like open world as in a GTA open world. It has the open world as in like a Final Fantasy VII open world, like a Final Fantasy VIII, like an old PlayStation 1 open world, which has different traversal mechanics, right? You can just run around, or you can hop onto this big character to allow you to swim in the water. And then in these watery parts, there are like coral reefs that you can't go through, that you need to unlock it by going through the story. And then when you unlock the ability to go through coral reefs, you can just break through them and unlock new areas into this world map. And it's so... This is a very JRPG French RPG, that's for sure. And the only thing I can really think about that is a knock on this game is how old it feels. It's the gameplay of it, the gameplay, the battle, the combat system, the storytelling are all very modern. The look of it is all very modern as well. But the thing that's old about it is the traversal. It's the actual moving around maps and stuff like that. It feels like Final Fantasy 13. Final Fantasy 13, the PlayStation 3 game from Square Enix, it feels it's from that era in terms of exploration. You just walk along a linear map. It's very linear. You just go through corridors. Sure, the art style makes it not feel like corridors, but they're basically essentially broken down just corridors. Just go straight, branch paths, then just go straight over and over. So in that sense, it feels old. However, all I have to say is that it serves the narrative really well. It gives you a really good pace for the story. And also the traversal, the animations of walking around is also very old. You know how, for example, in old games, when you change direction of the character, for example, from going straight, they go right and left, the character just moves immediately and stuff like that, instead of having like a ramping animation and different animations, walk animations, run animations, as we expect in like a new AAA release. It doesn't have any of that. It's just straight up walk straight, walk right, left, in a very weird kind of fashion. Even the jump animation sucks, right? Which kind of lends to a finicky kind of platforming segments, because this game has jump puzzles as well. So when you combine the old type of traversal with the weird floaty jump thing they have going on, it kind of gets annoying to just do these jump puzzles. But also, they're not really super part of the core gameplay of it, which is the combat. However, I remember someone said, yeah, but sure, are you playing the game though, or just running around or something? Basically, they were trying to say is that, well, yeah, but the game is really good. It's not about running around. right? You're mostly in battle instead of running around anyway, right? But in my mind, I'm like, this running around the exploration thing is also part of the gameplay. It's also here. If it wasn't needed in the game, then they could have just removed that part and just gave you like a menu hub system, like for example, Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy. But it's also part of the game. It's part of the thing that you engage in, the exploration, and the exploration part of the gameplay kind of sucks. I'm just saying, it kind of sucks because it's old. It feels old, but it's serviceable. It's okay. And also, another thing about this game doesn't have a mini map to speak about. And sometimes the areas can look very samey, in that you really don't know which areas you've already explored, which branching paths you're already in. Sometimes I get lost because everything just looks the same. And also, there's no mini map. So that's just a little thing that I was annoyed about. But yeah, aside from that, everything is just really good. I can't wait to finish this game and see what the story's about. The story so far is very end heavy, right? So for the whole 80% of the journey, I know probably 10% of the story. 80% of the game, 10% of the story is all I know about. Looks like the remaining 20% is where the rest of the 90% of the story is going to be. So, depending on who you are, that could be annoying. Last time I felt this was kind of like with Kingdom Hearts 3, where 90% of your journey is very bare bones story, and then everything is just loaded at the end, right? I feel the same way here for Clair Obscur. I'm talking about the story itself. Like what's the deal about these expeditions? What's the deal about the paintress and stuff like that? And in that regard, there's nothing here so far. There's very little so far. But in terms of character development, the character interactions, and the cool moments that they go through, there's a lot. It's very well paced in that regard. But the actual like overarching lore to it, I know next to nothing at the moment. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited to see how they'll tie all of this up, what the hell is going on in general. So, yeah, I think that's most of what I'll talk about for Clair Obscur. Next time I talk about Clair Obscur, I'll already have been able to finish it, and I'll be able to talk about the ending and what I think about the whole package as a whole. Okay. Lastly, I'm going to be talking about this other game that I got back into, which is Romancing Saga 2. So I'm currently around 12-ish hours, 13 hours into the game, and it's become clear to me more as to how this game works. So last time I played this game, I was around 3-4 hours in, and the only thing I was able to experience was the inheritance system of... So what happened in the first few hours of the game is that you play as the emperor of this kingdom. And then you kind of have to, in very simple terms, you have to defeat 7 heroes, right? Heroes. But you have to defeat them. So it has that kind of angle as well, because you're part of the empire, and empires, in RPGs are usually evil, right? Kingdoms are the good ones, and then empires are the evil ones. But in this game, it's not completely clear yet, but it's very interesting because you're part of the empire, and then you're the emperor, and then the hero is attacking the empire, and you need to defend yourself. You need to protect the empire from a hero, right? So in the beginning hours of the game, you fight the first hero, and they look ghoulish. They look like they're a monster, basically. But what happens is that the story happens, and then you, the emperor, dies. You die from the hands of this hero because the hero has a big attack that causes instant death. By the way, this game, like I told you, is a 1,000-year story. It's one of these things where it's a multi-generational story, okay? So the emperor dies. And so the son replaces the emperor and inherits the emperor's skills as well as memories. So in the beginning of this game, the emperor was really strong. He had fire magic. He was good at swords, right? And then the son was very weak. He was very weak. He used like a little rapier thing, and wait. The emperor doesn't use fire magic. The emperor only uses swords and is really strong with a sword. And then the son uses a rapier, uses also a sword as well, but not as good. But it was better in fire magic, right? So when the emperor died, because of this mechanic of inheritance or whatever that is, that was given story-wise, it was given to the emperor to pass on their abilities to whoever will take the throne. So in this case, it was a son. And the son inherited the father's strength at swords. So in what happened was that the son suddenly became a super strong character who was good at swords and was now good at fire magic. But in story terms, the thing that also was passed on was the memory of being hit by this one-hit skill that the hero used on their father. Now, with the knowledge of this, of the experience of being hit by this skill, what happened was we went back to the hero and we fought the hero, and the hero used this one-hit skill again on our new emperor, which is the son of the previous emperor. But because this new emperor has a memory of being hit by this one-hit kill skill, this new emperor was now able to dodge that skill, which gave us a fighting chance at defeating the first hero. And so at the end of the first few hours of the game, you're going to be able to defeat the first hero as a new emperor who inherited the skills and strength of the previous emperor, as well as the memory of being hit by this one-hit skill. So you can now see where this is going, right? So it looks like what's going to happen is you're going to have an emperor. You're going to fight the second hero. They're probably going to use a one-hit kill skill on you. This emperor is going to die. You're going to have to inherit the throne, get some of his skills to bolster your own. And then you go back to the hero. You're finally gonna be able to dodge that one-hit kill skill and use your stronger emperor to defeat this hero. So that's what's gonna happen. So that's a really cool, like, gameplay-centered narrative like ingredient in the whole thing. So what happened since then is, as the new emperor, right? The emperor deals with emperor things. Some people go to you and ask for help to develop like a smithy, an incantations lab. They use money, the money of the kingdom. And that's why this game gives you a bunch of money. Like, this game gives you 100,000 gold by just opening like a chest or something, right? And I was wondering, what's going on? And then if you buy stuff, things are just like 10,000 gold, 5,000, whatever, right? But the reason why the game gives you a lot of gold is because you're going to be developing your kingdom. So they go to you, hey, we need a smithy to create weapons. Sure. $100,000 to create this. We need incantations lab. It's $300,000. Sure. Put that up. Oh, by the way, we also need this thing for our town, whatever, to generate more revenue. It's going to cost $1 million. Do it, right? So yeah, so you do empire things. Now, also, as the emperor, you need to choose a retinue. The retinue is your party, right? And in a party, I think there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 members in a party. And you need to surround yourself with different characters with different attack types. So this game has like sword types, short sword types, martial arts types, blunt weapon types, spear, axe, great swords, and then there's also like different like magic, fire, wind, darkness, light, water, all that stuff. And characters can be good at any of those. But in order to level those up, this game does not have the character levels. It doesn't have character levels. You can't go from level 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. Instead, you have skill levels. So your fire skill, for example, if you use your fireball more, you can upgrade your fire skill from level 1, 2, 3, 4, and that fire skill is going to get stronger and stronger. But you can only level this up by using it. So for example, with, let's say, this skill called Life Water, which heals you, you need to keep using water skills. you need to keep using water skills so that your water ability levels up, so that your heals become stronger, right? So it's kind of like Final Fantasy 2. And this is why the inheritance system is cool, because with every new emperor that you choose, right, you get to choose from a cast of characters of who to give your powers to. And then they get to inherit the skills that you learned through your time with this emperor, with the emperor that you're controlling. For example, for me, I'm currently on my third emperor. So what happened was my second emperor, which was the son of the first emperor, what happened was we got to a story event that had us take a big region of the kingdom and made it our territory. And when that happened, basically the story skipped 100 years, right? The story skipped 100 years, and as expected, all the characters from that 100 years already died and have been replaced by new characters. And so when that happened, I had to choose another emperor. So the next emperor that I chose was a more court mage type of emperor. So they were good at magic, right? And then because the previous emperor was good at swords and fire magic, I was able to pass on those skills to this new emperor. So this new emperor, who is now also good at wind magic and water magic, is now also strong at swords and fire, right? And you can use any of these skills that take advantage of this. So you can imagine, after many, many generations, you can have an emperor that's like super strong at everything, right? And so with a new emperor comes a new retinue, and you get new characters to choose from, right? New characters to surround yourself with. Sometimes you get new classes, right? So that's pretty cool. But anyway, what's happening here is that that part of the story is done, where we just needed to conquer this nearby area of the kingdom. Now I'm at the second part of the story, which deals with kind of like an enemy usurping a neighboring kingdom and us helping them. And there's like politics and intrigue involved. And it's really good. It's just overall very, very engaging and immersive. And the gameplay is really good too. But I am very smitten by this game, and I can't wait to just get more into the weeds of just going through the emperors and going through different areas of the map and solving problems of this whole kingdom, fighting more new heroes, seeing all the drama that's going to unfold through 1,000 years of characters, right? And for example, there's also one cool thing here. For example, I was at this place, right? And there was a specific problem that needed to be solved, but this problem can only be solved if your character has some maritime experience. If they have some sort of background when it comes to boats, pirates, anything in the seas, right? So the game specifically tells you that you cannot progress this quest unless you come back as an emperor with maritime experience. So remember, my current character is a court mage without maritime experience, but by doing these quests all around the map, I unlocked a corsair, which is kind of like a pirate kind of class, right? I unlocked a character who's a corsair and can use them in battle if I want it. So what's going to happen is that if my emperor dies, so my emperor has life points. All the characters have life points, right? So when you get downed in battle, the life points decrease by 1. So some characters are 15, some characters are 9, some characters are 10, right? So that means if you die in battle 10 times, you lose your character forever. They die completely, right? So in a battle, depending on how things go, for example, if a character dies during battle, you revive them and they die again, you can lose more life points per encounter than than you wanted, right? So what's gonna happen is if my emperor dies, I think my emperor has like 15 life points. So if I run into a boss battle that you can't flee from, and he kills our characters basically, then that's over for this emperor. When this emperor dies, you need to choose a new emperor to inherit this emperor's abilities, the previous emperor's abilities. So what I'm gonna do is that after this court mage emperor that I have dies, or if I reach a next story event where there's gonna be another time skip for 100 years, I'm gonna have the corsair character inherit the throne, and then I'm gonna go back to the side quest that required an emperor with a maritime experience, and we'll be able to unlock new events based on that. Such a cool game. Such a cool RPG that I wish this game sold a lot, because I think there's something here. There's something here. It just needs a better presentation. It just needs a better presentation and maybe more budget, more, I don't know, because the thing that makes this game unique is just so engaging that I wish there was more of it. It's the same way I felt when I played Shadow of Mordor and we got the Nemesis system. I was like, damn, this Nemesis system is so unique. It's so cool. And no other game has it. I need more of this. And then freaking, it's gone, right? It was never used again. So this Romancing Saga 2 system of inheriting abilities throughout thousands of years is something I want more of. Maybe in a more high budget RPG. I wish Final Fantasy would have the balls to do something like this. Right? That'd be great. So, yeah, I feel like I'm going to finish Romancing Saga 2, and we'll see how far I get in our next episode, but this game is so sick. It's so good. Okay. If you're interested in it, if you like RPGs, and if you like very gameplay heavy RPGs, this game is very gameplay heavy. I like the story so far, but it's very bare bones, right? It's very gameplay centric, but the gameplay centric is tied into its narrative, unlike other RPGs. For example, Clair Obscur, right? It has a narrative and has its gameplay. I really wouldn't say the gameplay is tied into the narrative, not at all. Is there a reason why these guys can parry, can dodge, can gradient counter, or whatever? Aside from, they're just guys that can do that? Not really. There isn't. That's just the gameplay of it. And the narrative, it feels like the narrative and the gameplay are separate. However, for Romancing Saga 2, the gameplay and the narrative are intertwined. Literally, when the hero used the one-hit kill skill during a cutscene, the LP text showed up and it was an LP0. So that clued you in as to, so the character used an ability that reduces LP to 0, right? It's intertwined in that way. So that's really cool. It's really good. Play it if you want to. Hopefully, a lot of people played it. We need more Romancing Saga. But I think that's where we're going to end it for today's episode. See, it was a short one. I think the previous episode was 2 hours, 48 minutes. And this one is just around 2 hours-ish. So, yeah, not a lot of news, but I think we talked about it a lot still. I can't wait to progress these games. I can't wait to finish it. Also, I'm going to be able to finish Death Stranding 2 as well this week. So I can talk about that more in the next episode as well. And maybe in the next episode, I can talk about a new games that I played. I wonder what the next game I'm gonna play is. Actually, I'm thinking about Doom, going through the Doom series so I can play Doom: The Dark Ages, but I'm not quite super set on it yet. What I do want to do, though, is find a way to get me a used Xbox Series S so I can finally play Lost Odyssey. But if all else fails, I might just get Xenia emulator on my Steam Deck working and play Lost Odyssey through that. We'll see. We'll see. I just saw that emulators work on Steam Deck and that Lost Odyssey was actually playing well on the Steam Deck. So that's pretty cool. All right. But yeah, that's it for this episode of Triangle to Win, episode 8. As usual, thank you so much, everybody who supports the show by watching and also by subscribing on Patreon. If you want to support the show, $1, $5, whatever, go to patreon.com/triangle to win for early and ad-free access to the audio version of this podcast 3 days earlier than on YouTube. To the YouTube crowd, hello. Thank you so much for watching, too. And that's it for me. Wow, I feel like I got a cold throughout the duration of this podcast. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go eat. I'm hungry. I hunger. But, yeah, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching, listening, and I'll see you again in 2 weeks. Ta-ta!